Let's talk about something that's happening to you right now, whether you're sitting, standing, walking, whatever. There is an incredible, constant war being fought inside your body every single second. Today, we're going to break down that battle.
I mean, these are the big questions, aren't they? Why do we get sick in the first place? And maybe even more amazing, how does our body manage to keep us alive and kicking against all these threats? We've all been there, we've all felt sick, and thankfully we've all gotten better. But what is actually going on in there? Well, to get to that, we first have to figure out what being healthy even means.
You know, for most of human history, this was all a giant guessing game. Way back when, people thought our bodies were ruled by something called humors, things like blood, phlegm, and even black bile. Yeah, so if you had a fever, the thinking was, well, maybe you've just got a little too much fire in you. Now, compare that to today's definition from the World Health Organization. It's not just about not having a disease. It's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It's about actually thriving. That's a huge difference.
Okay. So if that's the goal, this state of complete well-being, what are the things that are constantly trying to mess it up? It turns out our health is basically this constant tug of war between a few major forces.
It really boils down to three big things. First, there are our genetics, the biological blueprint we get from our parents. Second, infections, all those microscopic invaders trying to get in from the outside world. And third, our lifestyle, the choices we make every single day. So it's a battle on three fronts: what we're born with, what's trying to get in, and how we choose to live.
Let's start with those invaders. I want you to think of your body like a fortress. And right now, the gates of that fortress are being constantly tested by an army of microscopic enemies that want nothing more than to get inside. The official name for these enemies is pathogens. And you gotta understand, these things are incredibly specialized. To even stand a chance of making us sick, a pathogen has to survive some crazy stuff, like a bath in our stomach acid or getting past our digestive enzymes. They are masters of invasion, basically adapted for one single purpose: to get past our defenses.
And this enemy army comes in all shapes and sizes. You've got bacteria, which are behind diseases like typhoid. You've got viruses, the tiny culprits that give us the common cold. But it doesn't stop there. There are protozoa, which cause malaria, and even things like parasitic worms. It's a whole microscopic menagerie out there, and each one has its own unique attack plan.
Now, if you really want to understand just how clever and how sneaky a pathogen can be, you only have to look at one of the most famous or maybe infamous cases in all of medical history: the story of Typhoid Mary.
So Mary Mallon was a cook in New York back in the early 1900s. And here's the crazy part. She felt totally fine, perfectly healthy, but she was a carrier of typhoid fever, and she had no idea. For years, she went from job to job, unknowingly spreading these deadly bacteria through the meals she cooked, infecting dozens and dozens of people. Her story is just this chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous threat is the one you can't even see.
Some of these pathogens have strategies that are just, wow, they're elaborate. Take malaria. It needs 2 different hosts just to complete its life cycle. It starts when an infected mosquito bites a person, injecting the parasite. Those parasites make a beeline for the liver. They multiply like crazy in there, and then they burst out and start attacking our red blood cells. That's what causes the terrible chills and fevers. And then, another mosquito bites that infected person, picks up the parasite, and the whole terrifying cycle starts all over again.
Okay, so we've met the attackers. It's a pretty scary lineup, but for every single one of these invaders, your body has an answer. So now it's time to meet the defenders, your immune system. And this is no simple wall. It is a complex, multi-layered, and incredibly intelligent army. The very first line of defense is what we call your innate immunity. Just think of it like the castle's high walls and the moats surrounding it. This is the general, all-purpose protection you are born with. It's your skin, which is a physical barrier. It's the acid in your stomach, a chemical barrier. It's even the enzymes in your saliva. Its job is super simple. Keep everybody out. No questions asked. But what if something slips past those walls? Well, that's when the special forces get deployed. This is your acquired immunity. And unlike the castle walls, this system is a precision instrument. It hunts down one specific enemy at a time. And this is the most important part. It has a memory. It learns, and it never, ever forgets an enemy's face. So here's how that memory works. The very first time your body sees a new pathogen, its response is kinda slow. It's figuring things out. But while that's happening, special cells are basically taking notes.
creating a most wanted profile of the invader. So if that same bad guy ever shows up again, the response is lightning fast and absolutely overwhelming. This amazing ability to remember an attacker is the exact principle that makes vaccines one of the single most powerful tools we have in modern medicine.
But this incredible, intelligent defense system, it isn't foolproof. Sometimes it can be sabotaged from the inside. Sometimes it can even turn on the very body it's supposed to protect. This is when things go horribly wrong. Just look at this number for a second. 25 million AIDS. In just its first quarter century, that's how many people AIDS killed. And it did this not by brute force, but by systematically dismantling the body's defense system, piece by piece, from the inside out.
The human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, is the ultimate saboteur. It's a traitor. It doesn't bother with the foot soldiers of your immune system. It goes straight for the generals. HIV specifically targets the cells that coordinate the entire immune response, the field commanders of your internal army. It hijacks them, turns them into virus factories, and as their numbers plummet, the whole defense network just collapses. And that leaves the body vulnerable to even the most minor infections.
But threats don't always come from the outside. Sometimes the threat is a rebellion from within. See, your body's cells are supposed to follow one fundamental rule. When they bump up against their neighbors, they stop growing. It's called contact inhibition. But cancer cells, they're rebels. They just ignore that rule entirely. They break free, they start dividing and dividing without end, piling on top of each other and forming masses that we call tumors.
Now, these rebellions come in two main flavors. Benign tumors are contained. They're like a campfire that stays inside its fire pit. But malignant tumors are the really dangerous ones. They're like a wildfire. They invade the tissues around them, and even worse, they can metastasize. That's when cancer cells break off, travel through the bloodstream like fugitives on the run, and start new tumors in totally different parts of the body.
Okay, so after all this talk about invaders, sabotage, and rebellion, it's pretty easy to feel like we're just helpless passengers along for the ride. But that is absolutely not true. We are the strategic commanders of our own health. The choices we make can and do turn the tide in these internal wars. So how do we reinforce our defenses? How do we give our army the best chance to win? Well, it all comes down to the fundamentals. A balanced diet gives our troops the supplies they need. Good personal hygiene means fewer invaders are knocking at the gates. Regular exercise keeps our forces in top condition. And big-picture strategies like sanitation and vaccination protect the whole population. Every single one of these is a strategic move to help your body win its fight.
So think about it. Right now, this very moment, a microscopic war is raging inside of you. Your immune system is fighting tirelessly day in and day out on your behalf. So the final question is really pretty simple. Knowing everything that's at stake, how are you going to help it win?